Ms. Shanahan, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. And I, too, must echo the words of my colleague in that what we're on 6, 7, 8, 9 meetings that we've had on this issue, and consistently we have heard from the Auditor General's team as well as the officials from numerous departments that indeed in the exercise of procurement, not only is it advisable not to have political interference, indeed it is part of the standards of professional practice and in keeping with this separation of the machinery of government, which must continue regardless of who the government is in power, and the political side, which rightfully so is presenting the kind of vision and policy and way forward, new legislation and so on that needs to be put forward to ensure that Canadians have a better quality of life, and so that we can enjoy the standards that, in fact, Canada enjoys on so many levels, and namely in a time of one of the greatest crises that we had in the last 100 years, a global pandemic, that this professional public service was able to procure the kind of protective equipment, the kind of administrative and management processes that were needed to protect Canadians until vaccines were developed and obtained again by this professional team. And I'm going to wager that none of us here around the table would have been able to do the same work. Chair, would you agree with me? Would you like to have been in that seat, trying to get PPE and trying to get people to develop an application and trying to develop vaccines? No, we are politicians. We have a role. We represent our constituencies, but we are not there to run the machinery of government. That, rightfully so, is separate from the political arm. But to hear my Conservative colleagues speak, the political arm should be dipping its fingers into every pie. And I think we know what that would mean. And we've all traveled enough and have seen other regimes in other countries to know what that means. That means favoritism and corruption and certainly at the most benign, an inefficiency and ineffectual government. And so it is really only in this issue, which we are all gripped with, the fact that there was inappropriate contracting, that there were bad actors that were taking advantage. And that is what is horrific in this case, to think that there, for all of the public servants that were working above and beyond the call of duty during a very, very difficult time, that there were some bad actors that were taking advantage of that crisis to line their own pockets. We are gripped with that. And that is the reason why I have confidence, and I would think that everyone here around the table would have confidence that the investigations that are being conducted right now, not just internally, not just by the Auditor General, but also by the RCMP, will get to the truth of the matter, and that those who are responsible will be held to account. And that is how we can ensure that our public service can continue to operate with integrity, not by picking and choosing who we want to blame and who we want to throw in jail or whatever it is, showboating that some politicians want to do. So when we come back to this motion, my preference definitely would be to invite back ministry officials, deputy ministers, and so on, which is why, again, Chair, we had to pass a motion here earlier in the week, and I'm glad for the support that we did have from the NDP to invite deputy ministers to this these hearings, because we were not consulted at all about the number of meetings. We had an original motion that talked about 2 meetings, but we were not consulted about holding further meetings and about who those witnesses would be and how they were chosen and for the length of time and when those meetings would occur. And so it has really been extremely frustrating for the members here who really do want to get to the bottom of what transpired and to be able to produce a report out of this study that will actually be useful for officials going forward and parliamentarians for that matter, to be able to continue to have confidence that oversight function be overhauled and upheld. And we heard testimony to that effect. But as we have done in the past, we will ask for follow-up. We have asked for action plans. That's something that actually, I think it was myself and the NDP member at the time in the 42nd Parliament, we asked for action plans to be submitted to the public accounts so that we had assurance that our recommendations were indeed being followed up on, ours and the Auditor General's. And I'm not sure, and I appreciate our regular member from the NDP, Monsieur Desjarlais, cannot be with us during this time, and I do want to extend my sympathies to him and his family. I understand he's going through a difficult time right now. So we've had different members from the NDP here, and I'm not sure that they realized yesterday in passing the other last-minute motion by Mr. Genuis yesterday that they were actually putting a target on the back of any and all public servants who may or may not be legitimately carrying out other contracts for the federal government. I'm not an expert in this field, but there's whenever we try to make a one rule fits all, there's always a number of very viable and understandable exceptions to that. But Mr. Genuis was going through for that hit and trying to actually, in having that reported to the House, to use up time in the House of Commons with these, and I believe that's where there's like over 6,000 hours and over 200 reports that are on notice right now that can be debated on a concurrent mode. That's basically, Chair, when there's a report that has been produced out of a committee, everybody agreed, the report has been tabled, and all of a sudden we want to have 3 hours of extended debate, essentially a filibuster on the report in the House of Commons. Why? To waste the House of Commons time. And we know that we have important legislation. In fact, the farmer care legislation that I'm so pleased that we were able to work with the NDP and to put forward this farmer care legislation. As a member in Quebec, I'm well aware of how important and life-changing having access to prescription drugs is, and now that we'll be able to extend that across the country. But will we? Because we've got 6,000 hours projected of concurrent waste the House of Commons time motions on notice by the Conservative government. And so I would ask for all members here to consider, if we really want to have the minister here, why don't we just invite her? I mean, we have had ministers here before. We can just invite her. That's all right. That's something that this committee has done, and it is something where we've always been respectful of the fact that ministers have many time constraints, and I think that it's behooves us to from this committee to have a motion that shows that respect. And again, if we were discussing this as we usually do in committee, it could be in camera, it could be in public, but together as a committee during committee business, we could have come to a reasonable invitation to the minister. But no, here we are. We're over time. People have other things to do, but this is what Mr. Genuis decided was the ideal time to pull this stunt. And so I move the following amendment, that the text that this meeting occur within 3 weeks of this motion being adopted be deleted from the motion.
Thank you. That is certainly in order. We're now debating the amendment to remove the 3 weeks. I'm going to confer with the chair for a second. Pardon me. I'm the chair. I'm going to confer with the clerk 1 second. Very good. So we're now going to debate the amendment to this motion to remove within 3 weeks. Ms. Ilut, would you like to speak to this, or would you like me to just hold you till we come back to the main motion? The floor is yours if you'd like to.
No, I'd like to speak later.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Yip, do you want to speak to this amendment, or would you like to have me hold your name and I will come back to it once this amendment is addressed?
Yes, I can speak to this.
Okay.
We should. So can we put this to a vote?
Speaking to it, yes. Are you done?
Yeah.
Good.
Let's just put it to a vote.
I have to go through the speaking. Miss Khalid, your hand was up, but then it came down. Do you want to speak to this amendment, or shall we proceed to a vote to remove within 3 weeks?
I think it'll pass unanimously, Chair.
I think it might. Not hearing from Miss Khalid, clerk, call the vote on this, please.
Shall the amendment proposed by Ms. Shanahan carry? Mr. Van Bynen.
Mr. Van Bynen, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Yes.
I was on mute in favor.
In favor. Thank you.
Mr. Pawlowski.
For.
Ms. Khalid.
You're on mute, Miss Khalid.
Ms. Khalid.
You're on mute, Ms. Khalid. And I'll just, in the meantime, we're voting on an amendment put forward by Ms. Shanahan.
My apologies, Chair.
Yeah.
Was having a hard time finding the vote button. I vote yes.
Thank you. And if I could ask you just to put your headset on if you speak again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Shanahan.
Yes.
Ms. Yip.
Yes.
Ms. Block.
I'm seeing a nay vote from Ms. Block on the camera, which is acceptable. Ms.
Mr.
Block
Barrett?
votes nay.
Ms. Kuzi.
Against.
Monsieur Lemire.
Contre.
Ms. Zidlout.
Akapunga against.
5 yeas, 5 nays.
Very good. Ms. Shanahan, I'm afraid your amendment is defeated. I'm obviously voting, and I'm now returning to the speaking list.